Welcome to the Equipped Agronomy Podcast, where we bridge the gap between seeding equipment and agronomy. Presented to you by Bourgault Industries, situated here in St. Bruce, Saskatchewan, Canada. I'm Curtis DeGoyer, and across the table from me is Mr. Jeff Strukoff.
G'day.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi, how's it going,
I'm
Curtis?
good.
So,
what do we do here? Agronomy? Agronomists?
We do multiple things, actually. Yeah, we are...
True.
Yeah.
True. But for the most part, agronomy.
Yeah, for the most part.
So just wanted to introduce us, finish the introduction of us. We're agronomists here at Bourgault Industries.
Yeah. DOT, doer of things.
Of all things.
Yeah.
Everything. Cool.
What do you want to talk about?
Today, we're going to dive into a cool little thing. And I would say this is is a child the right word to use of the agronomy program, but definitely a thought from the agronomy program, and that is the TriMax system. The TriMax Triple-Shoot placement of products, seed, 2 little things of fertilizer, maybe 2 things of seed, maybe 3 things of seed. Who knows?
The possibilities with the TriMax drill, Curtis, are endless.
That's the thing with the TriMax. Yeah.
We're gonna stir up some serious controversy with this drill. I can guarantee you that.
It kind of is a neat setup where we can do a lot of cool things, and hopefully we can really maximize those inputs, whether that be the seed or the fertilizer.
Yep.
And so to back it up, to start it off, what is it? What is the TriMax, right? Where did it come from? Well, basically where it came from was we've got mid-row versus sideband in a lot of circles, right? Where it's like, okay, one or the other. Well, we said, okay, what are the benefits of the dual knife system? And we've talked about the dual knife opener before previously. A lot of cool things with it as far as it moving some soil, puts that fertilizer down a little bit deeper right in front of the seed to maybe move some of the dry soil out of the way. Really good pop-up effects. What was the downfall of it? Nitrogen.
Nitrogen placement too close to the seed.
Too close to the seed. That's one. The other one is even like phosphorus uptake, right? If we have a whole bunch of nitrogen around that phosphorus in the sideband, it's just a little bit tougher for that young seedling to really access it. So let's move the nitrogen out. Okay, we can do that in a separate pass. We can broadcast, we can anhydrous and head. But if we wanted to do it in a single pass over that field and apply all of our nutrients safely with access, this is kind of the answer to that, right? And so the initial trials that we started off with were identifying some of the limitations of that dual knife opener. And then moving on to that theory of, okay, let's get the nitrogen down the banders then. We had a seed hawk here, right?
Yep.
We started off with a hawk. We had the dual knife assessing it. And we threw some banders on it. And that was the original.
Yeah, added a beam on the front and put some banders on there. And
30-footer.
That's where this whole concept came out of, was the agronomy trials. Like, what happens if we use that same drill and all we do is move the nitrogen further away?
That's right.
So it was neat.
It was very neat. And it led to, okay, well, I guess even at that point, it was like, well, would we ever offer a dual knife opener, right? And it was kind of from this reason, one of these reasons, right, of, okay, if it was in this configuration, there could be some value to this. So let's get into that one a little bit more as far as what we saw from that. So we did a lot of trials with canola and with wheat. I would say most start off as canola, I would imagine. So we'll start off with canola as well. And the biggest thing with moving that nitrogen from the sideband away into the mid-row was that, and you touched on it, the seed safety side of things, right? We could really see some plant stands go down.
Seedling mortality drastically went down every time we put the nitrogen.
Mortality went up.
Sorry.
Yes.
No. If we moved the nitrogen away from the seed, mortality would go down.
Roger.
Yes.
So we had more plants.
As soon as you actually move the nitrogen closer to the seed, mortality would go up.
Yeah.
So by how much? Well, that kind of changed depending on the conditions and everything. But
what were the conditions where it changed?
You get drier conditions.
Yeah.
Seedling mortality actually, goes up when the nitrogen is closer to the seed. As soon as you get over 60 pounds of N, that's when you start to see seedling mortality start to drastically go up.
Okay.
But not too many people just go with 60 pounds of N when they're direct seeding anymore. So as soon as you get to that 100-pound limit, then seedling mortality on canola significantly higher than if you were to actually broadcast nitrogen or band in the fall.
Move it away.
Or put it in a mid-row band in a TriMax configuration. So
of course, there's going to be variations in soil types and different things like that, right? Probably more buffer capacity and better soils. But there's a certain point where it kind of tips over. So what were we doing here in St. Brew? We've got gray wooded soil. So it's not that nice black Melfort land there. That's only 10 minutes away from us here. We can just see it.
We can see it, but we never get to farm it.
No, we got rocks and gray wooded, which, our organic matter is still okay. Like, what is the range? 3 to 5?
3 to 5.8, I think, is the high.
Yeah. Not including that peat field we had.
Wow, we got rid of that.
That was like 60.
Yeah, that's buffalo pasture now, so that's good.
So we don't have the most buffering, but we were putting down 140 pounds of actual N, right? Just so, we were putting a pretty big jag down and trying to get 60 bushel plus canola.
Yeah.
And, so, when we started playing with the TriMax, the ability to put seed on its own and phosphorus in the sideband. And I think that's one aspect of the TriMax that really needs to be exploited if you're going to buy a TriMax configuration. And that's putting the seed on its own. Mm-hmm. And that's very, very different, I would say, from, our recommendations, right? If you have a single knife with banders, we would never say put the seed on its own in that scenario.
We would never put all the phosphate in a mid-row band.
That's right.
Even though it does access it in the year that you do that, you lose out on that pop-up effect.
The split works.
That's why we say 15 pounds of P in the seed row, all the rest in the mid-row.
Yeah.
Works awesome.
And so I think it sometimes gets maybe just not explained fully when we say on this configuration, though, we don't want anything with the seed row because we actually just want the seed to do its own thing. Yeah. So in the case of the single knife, it's kind of like a compromise. It's the better alternative than putting it all in the band. So then we put nothing in the seed row. The beauty of the TriMax is that the phosphorus is now in the sideband fairly close. It's 1.5 inches away ish. No big band of nitrogen around it. So then the plant has that early access. And that's what we're really needing, right?
Yeah, there's no salt interference whatsoever.
The benefit is, exactly. That seed can just germinate, take in that moisture, away it goes. Mm-hmm. And then, the seed, any seed, not just canola, it physically does not take up any nutrients until that root is, an inch and a half anyway, before it can physically take up nutrients out of there anyway. So it's using everything from the seed to build its system, and then it starts to take up. Well, at that point, it's already into that 1.5 inches away. So no need for that phos in the seed row that we've seen, right? Right. That's what we've been finding. The best, anytime we do put a little bit of phos in the seed row, it kind of hurts our mortality just a little bit. Mm-hmm. So again, to really exploit the benefits of this in a crop like canola, seed on its own, starter nutrients in the sideband, bulk of your N and other nutrients out in the mid-row kind of thing.
Yeah. Not to say that we haven't messed around with adding a little bit of nitrogen into the sideband and different things like that. And we're kind of, we're exploring those avenues kind of as we kind of grow with this drill.
Exactly. We've, I think identified maybe one of the big things from it is that decreasing the seeding mortality, right? Yeah. And be confident in saying, okay, we're going to put down this many seeds. We're going to be getting this many plants coming up, right?
Yeah.
Year over year.
This is probably the point where we don't make any friends in the seed industry.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to confidently be able to,
friends? Yeah.
you have to be confident in the fact that you're actually going to have to reduce your seeding rate because the mortality does go so low. When the only thing you're doing is putting seed in the seed row, it's important that you actually figure out what your mortality is in the first place. But when you do that, there's a potential if you seed the normal way or what you were used to previously, you will end up
5
with
pounds.
Way too many plants.
Yeah.
Way too many plants.
Yeah.
Like you can comfortably reduce your seeding rate by 20%. Comfortably.
Yep.
And fine tune it from there. If you want to exploit the full benefits of the drill.
Again, we've talked about this in another episode where we're talking about seeding rates. We've gone down really low.
Like we seeded the whole farm last year at 2.85 pounds.
Yeah.
And we had a target in mind.
Yep.
We wanted to hit 5 to 5.5 plants per square foot. And
think we're seeing about 6 seeds is what it, or 5.5 to 6 seeds per square foot. I think. Is that?
I can't remember what that translated. It was 2.85 pounds. I remember, but
yeah. Okay.
It's a far cry from 5.
For 5 pounds, yeah. Saving quite a bit. And I mean, there's going to be years where, again, we've identified it before, where higher seeding rate maybe would pay off. You know, we've seen that in wet years, and it works well. But then also on the flip side, lower seeding rates have paid off, right? Just to kind of summarize that. So you hit in the middle, but then you're reducing your inputs. And that's the biggest thing, is the mortality, right? Yeah. We don't want to just reduce our plant stand by killing seed. We want to place our fertilizer correctly, reduce the amount of seeds going down, still get the desired plants.
Correct.
And I think that's what the TriMax really helps us do.
Yep.
Right on the canola side. Going back to your other point though about putting some starter nitrogen in the sideband and now playing with other ways that hopefully we can push the plants, push our fertility in a way that increases yield. Because at the moment, we really haven't seen a big increase in yield in canola. In fact, not at all. We don't even claim that. We're using the TriMax. It's more we can reduce our inputs.
Yeah.
Because we know our safety factor. We haven't been able to okay, we're going to do this and we're going to get this much more yield year in, year out.
I think some of the results, I wouldn't say they're skewed, but one thing that we started doing last year where we actually did start in the trials, like normally we had kept the seeding rates equal across the whole board. And we know for a fact that sometimes when we end up with less plants, we end up with higher yield. So this year we did incorporate one trial where we kept all the inputs the same as far as the groceries that we put down. The P was the same, the N was the same, everything was the same. But we did reduce the seeding rate by 20%. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, where you start to really fully capitalize on the merits of the drill, where you will actually get a yield increase. Not only will you save inputs from having a reduced seeding rate, you will get a slight bushel advantage too. Well, that's what we're trying to find out. Anyway.
That's what we're trying to find out. Yeah.
Because we've seen that in the past where, you end up with more plants and you get less yield. The lower seeding rates did significantly better.
Yeah, you put more in and got less out. That's a bad combination.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. This past year, 2024, I mean, it was a pretty wet year in general at the start. Of the year. It dried out at the end of the year. So did we have a whole bunch of differences this year? Nothing significant, to be totally honest, right?
Yeah.
We decreased in a couple of the treatments by 20% and really, did not show up as far as a consistent trend.
Advantage,
advantage or disadvantage.
Yeah.
It was kind of...
Everything kind of yielded the same.
It was kind of all in the... it was decent yields into the 60s.
There was a couple times in May where there was actually water running off the fields. It was that wet.
Yeah.
And then into June, it stayed wet, but then the tap did shut off and it dried right out.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, which I think was a pretty common scenario from a lot of producers here.
Yeah.
In a very large area, actually. So did we find anything this year as far as playing with some of this other stuff? We moved some N into the sideband. We also played with some phosphorus, just for fun, putting a little bit in the seed row, putting some in the sideband to give it a dual feeding site, I guess, kind of thing for phos, right? And that one didn't really show up anything different in it. And again, I think we're attributing a lot of this to, we had just a lot of moisture at the start of the year. Are we going to do this again? Absolutely. We're going to just keep playing around with this, with TriMax, how to push it on the yield side a little bit more here. But what we do know, good on plant stands.
One thing that I'd like to ask for, if Santa Claus was going to help us out in the future, I think it'd be really neat to actually compare 10-inch dual knife with mid-row banders to our farm drill to a more common configuration, 12-inch dual knife with mid-row banders. TriMax versus TriMax, but just the row spacing effect. And maybe not so much on canola, but maybe more on the cereal side.
Right. Yeah, because this drill in the plots is a 12-inch spaced.
Correct.
Right? But then our farm drill is on that 66 foot is a 10-inch. So Oh, could
I don't know.
right up against it.
That would be my ask.
Oh boy.
Yeah, throwing that out
whatever
there for
you ask. I'm sure
Linda
we can
Hasenfratz. If you're listening to this podcast, please give us a new drill. I'd really appreciate it.
Wait, which drill do we want it new? The flat drill or the big one?
Well, whatever. I don't care. They'd be good.
Oh, we could probably go back there. Anyway,
Yeah.
okay.
We'll just pull one off the line.
TriMax 12 versus 10. Okay, we can look into that a little bit more. But it is a good point on the row spacing. That adds another aspect to it.
Yeah.
But well, on that point, TriMax, is it available on 10-inch?
I believe it is. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, we could talk about the configurations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can get it with the dual knife, with the mid-row banders 3, or the mid-row bander IDs, or with shank on 12-inch spacing.
I have a personal bias. I'm very opinionated. You know that. If I was going to get a 10-inch dual knife, I would get the MRB IDs. I do feel that they actually cut straw better, and they really do help improve trash flow through the drill. I just, for whatever reason, we had that one year where we had MRB 3s on half a drill and MRB IDs on the other half of the drill, and you could actually... there was a noticeable difference, I thought.
Well, definitely.
As far as having a 10-inch dual knife with shanks, I'm not sure that would actually fly. I don't know.
I don't know if is that configuration out there?
I've never heard of anybody.
It's a good question.
Yeah.
I know you'd have to sign a waiver. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, on
your ID point there, I think it cuts through straw, but the other aspect of it is that gauge wheel on that MRB ID holds down the ground then too, so it doesn't throw in front of the openers. And I think that is a big component of why it did do it. You're absolutely right. It looked
and
way
the
better
IDs are nice too, because like with AccuSet, the availability of AccuSet, where you can change the depth on an app on your phone, or now if you have a bit controller, you can do it on the bit controller. You don't have to worry about changing the depth of your banders, because they're actually working independent of the height of the frame. So it's kind of nice that way.
Well, it's nice that way, but also if it gets dry, it does mean you have to go to all the banders to make them go a little bit deeper.
Yeah,
onto one.
I suppose.
Yeah. Always. See, we'll get back and forth, controversial here.
Yeah.
There's advantages, disadvantages. But yeah, no, that configuration, 10, 12, how that's set up, I guess to go one step further, you can get a TriMax, and we played with this, with a PLX opener, single shank, double shoot. Right?
Opener.
And there's a special Bourgault tillage tools boot you can put on there.
Yep.
And just it's more of a bias. Kind of bias the FOSS over to the side.
I don't think you get true separation like you do with a dual knife, but it does a good enough job where the seed is pushed more to one side and the fertilizer. There is a little bit of washing in the seed row though.
Yes. Yeah, there is definitely a little bit of mixing, but with that configuration, you're only putting phosphorus there, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to put a lot of N, if any N down. That's going to go in your bander. What I did like about that one though, canola, I mean, two things. One, the canola, you could slow that fan speed down your canola air shoot to like 2,500, just nothing. And I thought the canola did pretty good, just sitting just right there. On wheat, you did not. It mixed everywhere. You had higher fan speed, and it was mixing around in there.
Well, you had a ton of wheat seed going down too.
Ton of wheat seed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing with wheat, though, right?
Yeah.
So it's an 1.5 inch opener. So it kind of utilized the whole thing, and we know wheat can take a little bit more phosphorus in the seed row, so it didn't really matter if that was off to the side, but you actually used a bigger boot there then. So yeah, it was, that is a configuration. Obviously, the biggest advantage on that one is getting through trash, right? A single shank will always get through trash easier than a dual shank. Anybody's dual shank, ours, doesn't matter whose.
And it was kind of it's a way of turning any single knife drill into a TriMax configuration.
Right.
You got a 3-fan cart. Well, now all of a sudden you can have a single knife drill with, if it's got banders, you have to put another air kit on there and away you go. Yeah.
No, it's definitely an option. Speaking of wheat, going back to wheat, we have done this whole TriMax thing with wheat. Do we see an advantage as far as mortality goes? We have not. On the wheat seed side of stuff, no. We've never seen it, in our conditions here, kill off a bunch of wheat in the sideband with the amounts that we're putting down.
Way more tolerant.
Way more tolerant.
Yeah.
And that goes for putting all the phosphorus, like in a single knife with banders, we basically just say put all the phos in with the seed row there, right? Anyway.
Yeah.
What is interesting though on the wheat side, with the TriMax, and I've heard this before from some, is that the 3 fans offers the ability then to put, you're putting down your wheat seed. So we're not doing a peck and how's that, bushel and a peck? Yeah, sorry, I can't even get it right. This whole terminology. No, we're not doing that anymore. We're 2.5 bushels kind of thing, right? Well, maybe if you listen to our seeding podcast there. But anyway, but putting down more phosphorus, more potash. And potash is one that's more and more people are looking into putting more down. So if you want to get that down, it was just tough to haul that all into one single shoot. So now we can have the seed on its own, phos and potash down a separate sideband, and then your nitrogen. So we have that early access. So I think there's a benefit in that, depending on what rates you're putting down. We did play around with putting nitrogen in the sideband for the last 2 years here as well, doing this split, like 40 pounds of N in the sideband, the rest of the 100 out in the mid-row. I really would have, if I was a betting guy, I would have said we would have seen a difference out there. We did not. We've done this split for 2 years here now. I can't say we've seen anything on the maturity side. I can't say we've seen anything definitely not on the yield, protein, really nothing. So I'm a little bit shocked at that, actually.
We should do it again.
Let's do it again. We've done it for 2 years, but let's do it again. Yeah, absolutely. Because what else can we push with that? I mean, those are going to be the big things with it. So, again, TriMax, and we haven't touched on other crops other than what we've tried. Is there potential to do different multi-cropping things with it? Cover crops,
there's guys doing it.
Yeah. I mean, the possibilities are somewhat endless, right? Like chickpea flax. Having
the flexibility in the configuration of the knife, the dual knife, being able to move it in or further away from the seed and bringing one knife into the same plane as the fertilizer knife or putting it deeper or whatever. Like chickpeas and flax or any pulse and flax.
Yeah. Or maybe chickpeas and flax. Maybe you have to put the flax down the bander. No, you put the chickpeas down the banders.
If you had IDs, that'd be just sweet.
And then you could even put a little bit of nitrogen with the side. Yeah. Anyway, lots of possibilities there potentially. I think that's it's a little tidbit into the TriMax. Lots of possibilities. Have we found all the full benefits of it yet? I don't know yet. I think that there's just a lot of configurability with it. So the definite benefit, though, one pass seeding on canola or any other sensitive crop, get that seeding rate kind of pinpointed a little bit more, save some input costs, don't burn the seed, have the access to the fertilizer that you want. And those are the benefits of it. So
yeah, I'm a huge proponent of the TriMax drill.
Yeah.
I like it. That's like if I was going to buy a specific drill for one crop, if I was going to buy a canola drill, that'd be the drill I bought.
Guys have done that.
I don't know if I should actually say that or not.
Guys have done that. They've bought a second drill instead of buying a bigger one. They bought a second one, TriMax,
just for
canola.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I'll kind of end off on a few more on the equipment side of stuff. The fans, 3 fans. And
having the ability to move that much product, having 3 fans?
That much. Well, guys get concerned though on the tractor hydraulic capacity, right?
Okay.
Because we're pumping 2 fans already a lot. 3 is just going to be that much worse. Well, yes and no. More no, actually, because what we found, like we don't even have the big boy pumps on the tractor. We have 96 gallon. We have one big one smaller one. And we run a TriMax and we are putting down some pretty good rates of putting down. The ability of the TriMax allows you to do, let's say in canola though, that one fan you're only running it, like I said, really low.
2,500.
Just right. And then the sideband phos is, I mean, you're targeted just for phosphorus. The problems come in when you have phos and urea put together. You kind of have to gear it more on your phos side of stuff, right? Urea flows really nice on its own. Yeah. Really nice. You can turn that fan down quite a bit lower. So at the end of the day, we were using as much, maybe even less with the TriMax as far as gallons per minute goes compared to just dual 2 fans. Mm-hmm. So I think that's another thing to consider on that one. That isn't a hurdle that many people thought it might be. Yeah. Well, you know what? We should probably just shut her down.
That's
right there.
enough of that.
That's enough of that. Yeah, there's some
we didn't
cool
get
stuff
too-
we got online.
Yeah, we didn't get too controversial. So
No. Okay, I'll ask you this.
Okay.
Is the TriMax for everybody?
No, I don't think so. No, but there are customers or farmers out there that would really, really appreciate the fact that they could fine tune their seeding rates on sensitive crops like canola, right down to 2.8 pounds, like we did.
Yeah.
So
I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I don't think it is for everybody.
No.
That single knife and bander is still a pretty cool configuration, but here's an option.
There you go.
Right. Well, with that, I think we'll end there. And appreciate everyone tuning in. If you want to find some more results, we do have some results from TriMax getting popped up here on Bourgault.com under the agronomy tab, and then you can go check it out and reach out to us if you have more questions.
Curtis,
Thanks, Jeff.
as you were, carry on.